it's Reagan, and today I'm here to do an exciting video, and that is going to be my winter reading and review. As you guys know, every season I reflect back on all of the books I read for the past 3 months, go over each one and their star rating, and as well as pick my top 5 favorite books I read that season. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right in. So the first month is December, and the books I read in December are, the first book was Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. Next is Crystal Storm by Morgan Rose, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. Next is Sabriel by Garth Nix, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next up is The School for Good and Evil, A World Without Princess, which I gave a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Lastly, for the month of December, I read This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars to. Moving on to January, I started the year reading The Unseen World by Liz Moore, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars to. So good. Then I read Freaks by Amanda Hocking, which I gave a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Next up was The Beauty of Darkness by Mary E. Pearson, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Fate of the Tearling by Erica Johansson, which I gave a 4.75 out of 5 stars, very close to 5 stars. Lastly, I read Ever the Hunted by Erin Sumril, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Now moving on to the month of February, I read The Alchemist of Loom by Elise Kova, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars to. And I read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which I gave a 4.25 out of 5 stars. Next, I read The Battle for Wandfly by Toni DeSilorizzi, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars to. And lastly, I read My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. Those are all of the books that I read in the last 3 months. I'm gonna leave down below every wrap-up I did if you want more in-depth thoughts on each one. Now I'm gonna go ahead and move into my top 5 books. Again, none of these books are in any particular order. I just love them, you know? The first book I'm going to talk about is Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. This is a middle grade story recounting the author's life growing up as a young black girl in the 60s and 70s, both in the South and the North. It's written in verse, and it's honestly just such a beautiful story. It really impacted me. Personally, gave me a lot of new perspective, and it was just such a well-written novel, and I really think it has a lot to say, as well as it's so beautiful in how it goes about saying it. Everything's really subtle. It's just a really lovely story with a lot of atmosphere, and I love stories that center around family and growing up and coming of age, and this definitely has that as a strong central element. I think it's a powerful story, I think it's a beautiful story, and it's definitely one that I want more people to read because honestly it's just such a quick and amazing book. It's super short. I legitimately read it in like 3 hours, and it just packed so much like love and punch that I can't stop. I just like it. My next favorite is The Unseen World by Liz Moore. This book is just so amazing. This is an adult literary fiction novel following a young girl and her father. They're both very eccentric. The father is a professor and works in a lab, and this is set in the 80s, and he is like a programmer coder, and she is homeschooled by him, and again, incredibly smart, and she's our narrator, our main character that we read from. And this story follows our main character, Ada, as she kind of tries to uncover her father's mysterious past, and she also has to navigate through a lot of family drama as well. This story is beautiful, nostalgic, so awesome. I love books that have a lab setting or a scientific element, but are also really approachable. This took every element again of a family drama, added a really interesting technology, science fiction spin, and Ada is such a lovable and interesting narrator to read from. She's so young but so smart, and also her perspective on the world is just very unique because she is very eccentric and hasn't really had the opportunity to interact with people her own age, so her kind of evaluating and looking at the world is very funny but also relatable and just something that I really cherish. It is such a good book. I flew through this story, absolutely loved it. I think it had so much to say. Again, it was such a beautiful story. Next up is This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. Loved this book. So happy I picked up another book by Miss Victoria Schwab. She really just does not disappoint. This is an interesting, non-romance YA story that's set in a world where monsters manifest themselves from bad actions or sins, and depending on the action or sin, a different type of monster forms, and we follow 2 main characters in this, August and Kate Harker. Kate Harker is the daughter of a notorious criminal, and she basically just wants to become evil like her father and follow in his footsteps, and August wants to do anything to be human. They form an unlikely friendship, and this is such a wonderfully character-driven story with such an interesting backdrop of a plot and setting, this world is so dark because of the whole monsters manifesting themselves in real life and like hunting down people. So it just presents a really interesting backdrop to all of this character exploration that I think is so rich. And Victoria Schwab, in my opinion, writes some of the most interesting and also relatable characters that you love and root for, but they're also gray. They make decisions that you are like, why are you doing that? But you want to help them. You want to lead them to be a better person or see them become better people, and that's definitely an element to this story. It's so good. I really, really loved it. Next up is The Beauty of Darkness by Mary E. Pearson. This is the third and final book to the Remnant Chronicles trilogy by her, the first one being The Kiss of Deception. This is a solid YA fantasy trilogy that, in my opinion, gets better with each book. This follows our main character, Leah, who is probably one of my favorite YA heroines. She is so capable. Yes, she can fight, but the thing that I really love about her is that she has such a biting tongue. She will always stand up for herself. She's so great at political maneuvering, and she's just like fierce in every sense of the word. And this has a complicated love triangle, which is definitely prominent in the story, but honestly my favorite element of this trilogy, and I really think its strength lies in this, is Leah as a main character as well as the political intrigue and the author's ability to paint how gray politics and how complicated politics are. There isn't just one solution to a problem, and I think the author did a really great job exploring that, and I really loved this trilogy. And my last favorite book is another ending of a trilogy, and that is The Fate of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. This is hands down one of my all-time favorite book trilogies. It is so amazing. It follows our main character Kelsey, who at the beginning of the first book is basically been raised in isolation, and then eventually when she turns 17 she takes back the throne from her horrible uncle, and from there she basically has to save her kingdom, and it's in shambles. It's been run into the ground politically, and they're weak, they have no money, and it's just her trying to protect her people essentially. And it has so many interesting elements that I don't even want to bring up, but it's so unique. It has very good twists and turns, and it honestly brings some elements of fantasy that I have never seen before in a fantasy series like this. This third book completely blew my mind, completely had me just turning the page and pissed me off at one point, but then ultimately I was like, no, that was such a good ending. This is a fantastic trilogy. If you have not read it, if you have not picked it up, really do it. I promise you won't be disappointed. It's so good. Alrighty guys, those are the top 5 books I read this past winter. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down below some recent faves you guys have had, as I always am on the hunt for some new books. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye!